Hello and welcome. My name is Nathan Gallagher from Breath by Nathan. I'm a transformational breathwork facilitator, and today I'm answering the question, what is breathwork? You may or may not have heard of breathwork. When I started training as a facilitator, it's nowhere near as popular as it is now. It has really become a trend, largely as a result of a man called Wim Hof, who has really made breathwork and conscious breathwork famous in the West. Although breathwork has its roots in many of the ancient lineages, it has really become a staple healing modality and wellness trend. But what is breathwork? Well, breathwork by definition is using the breath and different breathing exercises and breathing techniques to achieve different goals and objectives, such as boosting the immune system, calming the nervous system, focusing the mind, reducing anxiety, boosting energy levels. There are many different outcomes because the breath is the master controller of all of these systems. It's our connection to mind, body, and spirit and emotion. The breathing system is deeply linked to the cardiovascular system, to the nervous system, even to the digestive system and the immune system. So by manipulating the breath, we can tap into these other systems in the body for different benefits and positive outcomes. More recently, the term breathwork has become more recognizable as reference to a deeper dive experience in which one experiences altered states of consciousness, peak, expanded, even mystical states of consciousness just through breathing alone. The breath is our source of energy. Oxygen meets glucose in our cells and creates cellular respiration. So by breathing in different ways, we can manipulate our energy levels. There's also this concept of prana or chi in ancient yogic and Chinese philosophy and traditions. And this is like our vital life force. The breath is the thing that keeps us alive, really. It's a vehicle of life force into our being. So by manipulating this life force and raising the life force in the body by breathing more, we can actually have these more expansive, energetic states of consciousness. So traditional schools of breathwork will use something called conscious connected breath or circular breathing, which is a tool to raise the energy by creating this circuit of energy in the body. And in doing so, we can have these peak, mystical, transcendent states of consciousness akin to psychedelic experiences, but we can also have these deep, emotional, cathartic, healing experiences in which we're releasing unresolved emotions and traumas that have been stored in the nervous system, in the physical body, in the energetic bodies, and in the emotional bodies. And by breathing in this certain way, we are actually integrating and processing these emotions that have maybe been trapped in the body where they weren't fully expressed in the time when they arose within us. Emotion actually means in motion or energy in motion. And if this motion is inhibited because society and our peers and our authority figures say to us that we can't express ourselves, then this emotion gets trapped in the body, and this can cause sickness, it can cause dis-ease, it can cause mental health issues. And by doing these breathwork experiences and having this tool in our toolkit, it can allow us to release these emotions, which can be profoundly healing and can free up immense energy in the body. As such, breathwork offers a fantastic alternative or complementary modality to traditional talk therapy because it bypasses the mind level. It kind of goes straight into these emotional, energetic causes and actually helps to release them from our physical body and release these blockages that might be holding us back on a subconscious level. So instead of relying on the interpretation of a therapist, it actually relies on this wise internal healer, this inner chemist, this kind of internal compass that knows what's best for us. So breathwork usually brings up the issues that are most pressing behind the surface that on an energetic level we need to deal with more than any other thing that maybe the therapist might suggest. And in this way, I believe that breathwork can be a fantastic alternative and also can work really well alongside traditional talk therapy, because after having these peak experiences and working with this subconscious element, we can actually work through the mind level by integrating, by communicating and talking through these different aspects. That's why coaching is fantastic alongside breathwork, but also using things like journaling and drawing is a fantastic way to integrate the experience. Apart from emotions, there's many weird and wonderful reactions that occur from physical sensations like tingling, energy moving, wanting to move the body, to having visions and downloads and moments of clarity and awareness, which are obviously fantastic. So this concept of therapeutic breathwork, or breathwork for reaching transcendent states of consciousness, kind of made its way to the West back in the late 1960s, early 1970s by two individuals, Stanislav Grof and Leonard Orr. Stanislav Grof created holotropic breathwork, which means moving towards wholeness. And it is a modality that was created as a result of the Misuse of Drugs Act coming in 1971. In which Stanislav Grof and his partner had to drastically change their research methods, because what they were doing LSD psychotherapy cases where they had worked with thousands and thousands of individuals using LSD as a tool to have these more breakthrough experiences when it comes to therapy and healing. But when the Misuse of Drugs Act came in, they had to look for alternative ways. And after looking at these ancient cultures and civilizations and traditions, they realized that the breath is one of the most essential tools that kind of overarch these different techniques. So they begin to practice and experiment with the breath for these altered states of consciousness, and they developed this modality of holotropic breathwork. The other individual, Leonard Orr, created the school of rebirthing breathwork, quite famously after he was in the bath doing some breathwork and relived his birth through the technique. He was said to have been inspired by Babaji, who was a spiritual guru at the time, and he then went on to create this rebirthing breathwork, using breathwork whilst also immersed in water and using the water element to kind of create this rebirthing experience. These schools of breathwork have since evolved and shifted, and new schools of breathwork have emerged, such as transformational breath, which has been going for about 40 years, which I am a facilitator of, which uses a little bit more hands-on body work and affirmations. There's also alchemy of breath, integrative breathwork, shamanic breathwork. There's many different schools of breathwork, but they all of these therapeutic styles use this deep dive conscious connected breath. Breathwork has now been shown to be therapeutically effective for things like anxiety, depression, CPOD, PTSD, asthma, infertility even, sleep apnea, high blood pressure. The list really does go on. Quite interestingly, this deep dive conscious connected breath style technique that all of these different schools of breathwork kind of use as an overarching principle, it all relies on this principle of letting go and allowing the breath to flow through in any way that it wants to, by just putting our conscious awareness on the breath and creating this current of breath and energy. That's what kind of propels us into these places. But if we're holding on, then we're not going to go to these deeper places. So it's all about letting go and allowing the breath to just flow through us, so we just be and let whatever wants to come up just come through us, really. And actually what happens often is something called activation, when the breath activates, when the individual experiencing the breath work doesn't actually feel like they're breathing anymore, and the breath is kind of just flowing through them. They're almost being breathed. When they're no longer the breather, the breath is just kind of breathing them, and that's the most heightened energetic state that we can create through the breath. Now there's this whole other kind of category of breath work that is actually all about manipulating the breath for very specific goals and outcomes. The most famous and longest standing school of this type of breath work is Pranayama, which is actually a limb of yoga. It's not technically a school of breath work, but it's a tradition that has thousands and thousands of different breathing techniques for specific goals, ranging from cooling the body, boosting the energy body, purifying the energy body, to calming the nervous system. Now these are all about extending the lifespan, really. Prana means life force and ayama means to extend or expand. So it's all about extending the life force. There are some other interpretations that pranayama literally means to work with the energy, or like energy working with the vital life force. Quite similarly, again, a lot of the Ideas behind this are that by working with the breath we can purify the energy system, and by clearing out the traumas of the energy body and working to clear out our karma. Also, by controlling the breath, you kind of are controlling your life. Your mind can become very calm and still once we control the breath. So by using these different techniques, we can really use this as a tool for self-mastery and self-realization, which is kind of what yoga is all about. And all of this is possible because the breath is the master controller. It's the leader of the pack, of the nervous system, of your cardiovascular system, of your mind even. So this is why organizations like the Navy SEALs, Google, LinkedIn, even the UFC and professional athletes are using breathwork as a tool for mastery and performance and well-being. In this sense, breathwork is a real tool for preventative healthcare. It's not about something that we do when we're sick. This is actually to increase our longevity, increase our ability to live longer and live healthier with more vitality. In fact, some studies have suggested that lung capacity is one of the best indicators of lifespan. So breathwork in this way is a great preventative tool. It's something that we can practice on a daily basis, working with different rhythms, different ways of playing with the breath to manipulate for very specific goals and outcomes, boosting the energy, calming the nervous system, and overall being a really profound tool for self-mastery and self-realization. And best of all, it's a completely free resource that is there for you at any time that you need. So all you need to understand is how to do the different techniques. And even with the deep dive conscious connected breathwork, you don't need a facilitator. As soon as you understand how to do the technique, this is a tool that you can use in your own time to heal yourself, to heal emotional trauma, and to clear through emotions when they come up. It can help us to become more present and more aware. The more we become consciously aware of our breath, the more it takes us into the present moment, takes us into our body. And this is why it's such a powerful, powerful modality. If this is something that you'd like to go deeper with and to understand a little bit more or experience for yourself, do feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm available for one-to-ones, and I also have different workshops, classes and sessions available. If you liked this video and found it interesting and informative, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to this channel for more content just like this. I look forward to catching up with you soon.